Hey guys, it's SimQueen, and today I am doing a collab with a bunch of other simmers. This was put together by Artistic Gamer 7. She cleared out the entire world of Brindleton Bay and got a whole bunch of simmers to come together and put their builds in to kind of turn it into a spooky world, and we're calling it Haunted Bay. So this is my lot. We all kind of got different lots and are doing a whole bunch of different themes. I've seen so many different ideas for this, and I think it's a really fun idea. I definitely want to do one for Christmas as well because I think it's fun to try to put together different themes like this. So yeah, this is mine. I don't really have a name for it yet. At the time that I started building it, my idea was to build a abandoned hotel. That was kind of what I wanted to do. But by the end of it, I realized that it wasn't gonna work because there was not enough room to make it a hotel. Like upstairs, I felt like the rooms were just too small, and I mean, I probably could have made it work, but I like the idea of turning it into a mansion instead. So this is about my fourth attempt at building this house. I bulldozed this lot 3 times. I was not happy with it. It took me a very long time to put this together, but I can honestly say that I'm very proud of it. I love the way that it turned out, and it was a lot of fun to make. At first, I was just mostly frustrated that my ideas weren't coming together, and I was thinking I'm going to have to ditch this idea and try something else. And it's always disheartening as a builder to realize, like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough for this. But I kind of just stuck with it, and I kept rebuilding. And every time I didn't like it, I just bulldozed it, maybe a little too prematurely. Like, I didn't even try to fix it. I was like, nope, no good. And I just deleted it and tried again. So maybe I was a little hasty in doing that, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out in the end. I did use the front of the build. It was inspired by a picture from Google, of course. It's kind of how I do most of my builds. But like the back and the side and everything else, that was just kind of made up as I went. So I don't exactly remember what the picture was. I think it was just called an abandoned mansion, basically. And it looked very spooky, very uninviting, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do for my build. So yeah, I just decided I was going to do something that was kind of overgrown. It wasn't hadn't had a lot of love in a lot of years. It was kind of I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just, it had an abandoned feel, but not so much of a spooky feel. Like, even when you go inside, I mean, it's a little creepy, I guess, but it's not totally, it's not as spooky as like the vampire builds in Forgotten Hollow. It's just forgotten about. It's run down. It's got some little details in there that kind of show that it hasn't been lived in quite some time. Also, struggling with the roof. I was going to cut all of this out, but then I was like, nope, this was a huge part of the build for me. This was my biggest struggle, and I think sometimes it's important to include our struggles so that other builders don't just think that these things come easily, because for me, it did not. I've never done these roofs before where you build a square room and then put the roofs around it to kind of create that tall effect. I've never done that before, and I finally had to watch a video, I think, to get it right. I struggled with the roof for so long, and I was like, why can't I make this work? Why doesn't it look right? It doesn't look like an abandoned old mansion. It just looks like a normal house, and I didn't know exactly what detail to put in that would make it look the way I wanted it to. And then I had this idea to start caving in the roofs a little bit, either way. That side I actually made it, I think convex is the word, where you kind of make the roof go out a little bit. And then the other roofs I made them kind of cave in just a little bit. So that to me was the detail that really brought this all together. That was what I needed to be doing the entire time. It was just playing a little bit with those roofs. So I finally got that part of it, and I was like, okay, now this is starting to look the way I wanted it to. So I realized that was the entire time what I was missing. So yeah, I played around with the roofs for a very, very long time. But it finally came together, and at this point I was so happy with it. I was looking at it like, yep, perfect. I love it. I can't wait to get started on the rest of it. Like, at this point I was happy with what I had done. Usually at this point for my other build is when I was like, nope, no good, and I would just delete it and start over. So this build was a challenge, a really fun one though, and it did take a really long time, but I wanted it to be some of my best work if it was going into a collab, just because, you know, it's something that, I don't know, I feel like other people probably worked really hard on their build, and I didn't want to do a cop-out. I wanted it to be really good. So yeah, I for the outside, I think I just went with like a whole brick theme, and then I made it very overgrown and sort of like, and I've already said the word abandoned a million times, but I don't know, when I look at this house, I think like, I want to renovate that house. I want to make it look nice and restore it to its former glory, because it definitely has so much potential. And I was thinking of maybe doing that on my channel, like rebuilding or renovating the house, like kind of a fixer-upper. Once you see the screenshots for the inside, you're going to think like, oh yeah, this house needs some love. So I think that might be a video that I'll do on my channel, is just like a fixer-upper of this house, and yeah, make it look nice again. Because part of me, as I was furnishing it, because I was doing like a lot of clutter and cobwebs and cracks in the walls and a lot of the stuff in the vampire pack and a lot of like rundown things and making it look just not very nice at all. And part of me was like, this is such a shame. It's such a beautiful house. It should look nice and fancy and well kept and stuff. So part of me was like, this is wrong. But I don't know. I think that it would be kind of fun to redo this. So definitely look for that. Wait for that video on my channel. Once I have the time to sit down and fully renovate this house, because even this build took me 4 hours, I think. So once I have the time, I'm definitely gonna get that done. I think it'll be really fun, and it'll be up on the gallery as well. I don't know exactly how many packs I used for this build, but I will put this version on the gallery. My origin ID is SimQueen 1992, so you can find it there if you want to download the rundown version. It's kind of a cool lot just to place in your world, even if your sim isn't going to live there. I mean, it is livable. Like, you can still live in this house, but it's, like I said, it's very rundown. But yeah, I'll do the former version, and once I've sort of renovated, I'll put that one up as well. So I just putting in these pillars here. I think that adds a little detail to the build that it really needed. I'm surprised. I've never used to do this. I mean, I see it in other Simmers builds where they put these pillars in on the corners just to kind of add a bit of detail, and I never used to do it, but recently I have started because I think it actually really helps bring everything together. So I think that really helps. The inside here, I skipped forward a little bit because I forgot to hit record, of course. I did this on like a whole bunch of different recording sessions, probably 3 or 4 of them, and in the middle one, I actually forgot to hit record. So I went in, I did the entire floor plan, and then I just put up wallpaper and flooring, and that's pretty much it. So the floor plan, I rarely include floor plans in my builds because they take the longest to get together, and it's painful to watch. So yeah, I didn't put that in here. But you can see I'm just adding a whole bunch of furniture and sort of older items and lots of candles. I've got like newspapers on the ground, and I used a ton of the stuff from the vampire pack. Let's talk about the vampire pack, because I used to just hate it so much, and I didn't even have it, but it's because I don't like to play with unrealistic things like vampires in my game. So even when I'm playing in the game, I don't have vampires. I delete them because I don't think it's fun. So I always thought I don't want the vampire pack because I don't want vampires. But the pack is so much more than just vampires. The items that you get makes it totally worth it, I think. Just because it's got so many interesting little details, like the cobwebs and the cracks and the rips in the wallpaper and the cobwebs, and I think I already said that. But it's got so much to it that I think it's really worth it. And I would have paid the $50 or whatever it was, Canadian, for the vampire pack, even if it just had the stuff and not the vampires, because that alone to me made it worth it. And I'm glad that I finally got it, especially in time for Halloween, so I can start using all of those things in my builds. And yeah, I'm glad that I finally broke down and got the last pack that I needed. So upstairs I did a whole bunch of like rundown bedrooms, and just a whole bunch of items that you're probably thinking like, what is that doing there? But I can picture this house having been abandoned for quite some time. Maybe there had been like squatters living in here. Who knows what people are up to, but a lot of the furniture is sort of turned and twisted around and moved, and there's a lot of random items in there, and like I said, tons of cracks in the walls too, and yeah, just all those wall decals that came with the vampire pack. I mean, I'm not going to use them a whole lot except for these kinds of builds. Like, I don't usually use them because you don't really want your houses looking like that. But in this case, it just worked so perfectly. And the cobwebs were like just the best. That was such a good touch. And yeah, it was fun to kind of think in my head, like, what do I want each room to look like? I mean, they were all meant to be bedrooms, but I also, in my head, wanted there to be a fair amount of like random items placed in each room. So that one room has the tower that goes straight up as well, which kind of looks interesting once you're in there. And then this room I had a weird idea, kind of a creepy idea. You'll see it come together a little bit later. I started putting it together and then I sort of changed my theme for this room. I wanted it to have a whole bunch of like weird creepy hospital stuff, so I ended up putting like that IV bag and a hospital bed and the room separator and what else did I put in there? I ended up taking that table out and putting in a different one, but it just, I don't know, you can kind of use your imagination as to why this room looks like that. Maybe, you know, someone was dying in there. I don't know. Maybe there was some weird experiments going on. I don't know. It could be anything. I didn't really have like a story in my head. I just thought like this looks good because you walk into that room and wonder like what happened in here. So that was pretty much what I was going for there. And the knives behind the bed, like so weird. And the camera. Yeah, it's definitely building a story, I would say. And it just looks very creepy, but that is my favorite room, I'd say. And then also the bathroom on that side of the house, what I did is I actually removed the floor entirely, and there's a bunch of rubble at the bottom of it when you look down. So basically it's supposed to look like the flooring in the bathroom actually fell apart and the floor just caved in. So if you walked into that room, you would fall to your death for sure. But yeah, there's nothing going on in there. And then in this room, I thought that could be like a nursery, a very creepy one, of course. And there's a whole bunch of random items in there as well. Mostly kid stuff, like there's stuffed animals and things like that. But of course, like the bassinet and more of the stuff on the walls. And then I think I put like a dresser in there and turned it around. And there's some boxes and a mirror and the tattered curtains. So, I mean, yeah, it's weird. And I went through all the clutter items. I probably used every single one of them. That other bedroom was kind of fun too because I used really expensive furniture, and then I had this idea to start putting all this rubble around that looks like maybe something broke or the roof caved in or something fell apart and there's just this rubble all over the place. So I also put a bunch of that rubble at the bottom of the stairs along with some like roadblock signs saying like don't go up here. I mean, you could still get up the stairs if you move that stuff, but it's definitely in the way for your Sims and you actually would not be able to get up the stairs. There's way too much blocking it, which was the whole idea. And then in this little room at the back with the little archway, I put in nothing but a coffin. So I think that was all I put in. I don't think I put in any other, I mean, there's like all the decals and the cobwebs and stuff, but yeah, just I thought that was super creepy to use a coffin in there. So I put that upstairs and then just some stuff for the balcony as well. And I did cut out a couple of the rooms because it was very, very time consuming to do this, and I was trying to keep it around 15 minutes of furnishing, so I didn't want to do too much of the little details because basically every room's the same. Like I'm using a lot of the same clutter items, a lot of the same decals. It's just all the same. So yeah, I did cut all that out. And then at the back of the property, I had this idea to put some like dingy water all around, so it kind of looks like it's built on maybe a lake or something like that. I mean, a very small one, but there is a little bit of water around it. I did want to originally do a moat, but the front of the house was too close to the sidewalk and it wasn't long enough, so I decided not to do the whole moat idea. Also, this is the first build I've ever done with the Sims 3 camera entirely. It was actually not as difficult as I thought. For sure I was going to fail. I was like, no, I'm going to switch to Sims 4 camera in no time at all, but I actually stuck with it, and it worked out pretty well, and I've been using the Sims 3 camera ever since, for builds and for gameplay, so it actually worked out really well, and I'm glad I did it. So now I'm just adding all these like vines all over the house. I think it actually looks really good like that. I kind of like the vines, like with the brick. I think it's a good contrast, and I'm glad that I did that. I'm not going to want to take them away though when I redo this house because I kind of like the idea of it. But a lot of them are like the overgrown dead vines, and so you'd want to get rid of those for sure. And then I also put some vines over the door that leads to that balcony upstairs, so you actually wouldn't be able to open that door. I mean, your Sims probably can, but it looks like it's just right overgrown. And then I put a bunch of tall grass there as well, and I think I added some trees and just some of those vines all over the place. And it was fun to add some of these creepy dead items. It was really fun. And I did put some like weird statues at the back and a whole bunch of stuff like that. The landscaping, I mean, there wasn't very much to do because I didn't have a very big lot to work with. So I think really all the dead trees is the most I could do with that. But yeah, we're pretty much coming to the end of the build. I am going to put the link for all the links, I guess, for all the other channels in the description so you can check out their builds as well. There's a lot of us. We all came together to get this done, and I cannot wait to see all the other builds. They're not all being posted at the same time, so some of them might already be posted or some of them might not be posted yet at all. But also if you go onto the gallery and use hashtag Haunted Bay, you can see everyone's builds there as well. And yeah, just adding like all these bushes and stuff, and it was hard to make all of this look as I don't know, as detailed as possible when the landscaping was such a small area to use. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.